back to you.
Stand back.
Neil's going to do the mini exercise.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Toni Rodnick, and welcome to Ask the Chiropractor. We have a very exciting show today. We're going to talk about WorkSafe and the safety program in industry. And we're going to talk about subluxations. And we have our co-stars, Toni Rodnick and Neil Rodnick. Hi there, guys.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Yes, indeed. And then a special guest, Dr. Greene from Skidway Lake, Ogemaw.
Yes.
Yes. And how long have you been practicing?
I just had my 20th anniversary.
Wow, congratulations to that. I understand you got an award or something from our senator. Is that right? Or
Right. I was given a proclamation from my state representative signed by Senator Molinar and also signed by the governor. Congratulating me on the 20 years.
And congratulations. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. So I understand that you work with the state and the Michigan Association of Chiropractors, and I understand, I'm looking at your booklet here. It's the WorkSafe booklet. You can take a good look at that. And I know you represent the Michigan Association of Chiropractors, and you're chairman of this whole WorkSafe program. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about it to start with.
Okay, the WorkSafe program, we're actually in I believe our 11th year. And it was started because the state recognized that in certain industries such as nursing homes, home health, small manufacturing, and originally road builders, that there were a lot of injuries. So our association wrote a grant, and we were awarded, and this is, like I said, about 11 years ago. And we train our doctors on going out into the community to educate on how to prevent back injuries. And we've actually been renewed for this grant 10 times.
I know it's amazing because I know that we've all participated in this, and very proud of the work you've done with this and all the effort you put into this program. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you. The grant itself was through the state of Michigan, the Department of Labor and Economic Growth. So the fact that it's sponsored by the state of Michigan gives it a little extra oomph when we go into places, because we're helping them keep their employees safe.
I know it's MIOSHA is part of this, and for people who needed certain training done per year, and
right.
So I know
the state is getting more and more interested in workplace safety. So our program, since it's accredited by the state of Michigan, is very helpful to small employers. And what's really important in this type of economy is we can go in there as volunteers because the facility doesn't pay for any of our materials. They don't pay for the booklets that each of us are holding, doesn't pay for the video that we're going to see in a few minutes, and doesn't pay for the time of the doctor to go in and do the training. So what it does is it gives them essentially an in-house safety committee that they don't have to pay for.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Well, let's take a look at this. So it says backpack safety and ergonomics. So what exactly does that mean?
Well, that means that especially when I go ahead and do a presentation, I'm interested in what's called 24-hour wellness. And what that means is, and I explain to the employers and employees, if when you're at work and you lift properly, and then you go home and you toss around a 50-pound bag of fertilizer or dog food improperly, that's not going to keep your back healthy. So it's about how to lift things at home as well, using a backpack properly, especially for children, not having 50% of your body weight in a backpack because you've got a lot of homework. So it's about being healthy 24 hours a day.
Got it. That is important. And it's funny how that happens, so people don't realize the things that they're doing, or they'll have their television set up on a weird angle, and they wonder why their neck and shoulder hurt because their head's twisted for 2 hours while they watch TV. So, yeah, very interesting.
I mean, definitely, and it's the simple things that make a difference, like you just said with the head. I don't know how many patients in my office I've quote-unquote cured because I told them to rearrange their furniture.
You'll sit on the other side of the couch, and all of a sudden your problem goes away.
That's right. That's right. So Dr. Rodnick, Dr. Neal, would you talk about what a spine should be, what a healthy
You could
spine
hand
exactly
me the
is?
spine right here.
There you
I'll
go.
just take it right off the stand here. So the normal healthy spine, it's made up of bones, the discs in between here, and the nerves are coming out at each level. Everything's held with support through muscles and ligaments, and that keeps everything stable. Your normal spine, if I could get this one straight, should have 3 curves from the side view. Nice backwards shaped C in the neck, going the other way in the mid-back, and then the backward C again in the lower back. From the front, everything should be totally straight and lined up.
Boy, that was
And
the quick
that's-
version.
That's the quick version of a normal healthy spine.
And Dr. Toni, would you, the newly Dr. Toni Rodnick, freshly graduated from Life University.
So the spine houses the spinal cord. And because the spinal cord is so important, it's all encased in bone. The brain is totally encased in bone, and the spinal cord is in individual pieces which also allow protection and movement. So if by allowing the movement, there's more chance of injury. So there's several ways you can hurt your back. You can do it by a micro trauma, repetitive micro trauma. Continually,
What is microtrauma?
like continually doing small things, like always carrying your purse on the same shoulder, or always turning one way, like you said, to rearrange your furniture because you always have your neck turned the same way, or little things. You don't realize you're causing damage, but it's the accumulation of all these little things that cause the problem. Or you could have the macro trauma, like a slip and fall, the auto accident. And what happens with these different conditions? Well, we can get subluxations, which are the bones out of place, causing pressure on the nerve, which cause nerve interference. And since the nerves control all the organs and tissues, it can affect any system of the body. Also, when you're subluxated, it causes fixation, it causes motion problems. There's like a kink. You feel like I can't move it right. It's kind of stuck. You can tear muscles and ligaments. And when muscles and ligaments are torn, in order to protect the spine and form stability, you can have muscle spasms. A very painful condition, the muscle spasms to hold the spine together, and that's another problem you could have when you damage your spine.
So with a subluxation, are you always going to feel pain?
No. Pain is usually the last thing to come and the first thing to go. When you start getting it corrected, the pain goes away, but that doesn't mean the problem's totally corrected. You could still have subluxations, and you could still have problems with the nerve signal to the organs and tissues without even knowing it.
So I hear this thing about slip disc. What is that all about?
Well, a slip disc is another way of saying a herniated or bulging disc. The discs are like shock absorbers between the bones, and they're made of 2 separate parts. The center is kind of a fluid, and it's like a hydraulic. It protects as a shock absorber, and around the outside there's fibers, the annulus fibers, and if they tear, the center part can start bulging out. So when it bulges, first off, it can put pressure on nerves. It can put pressure on the spinal cord. It can cause degeneration of the disc, where eventually it's like bone on bone without the shock absorbing. And when there's stresses, it changes the stresses, and calcium goes to areas of stresses, so it can also cause the shape of the vertebra to change as you get spurs or osteophytes.
So you said these can also affect the different nerves, and you said the nerve goes to everywhere.
Correct.
Is each nerve goes everywhere, or are there different nerves that go to different places?
Different nerves go to different places. The nerves in the neck go to the arms. The nerves in the mid-back, basically, it goes to other places too. It goes to the head, the arms. The nerves in the mid-back go to the lungs, the heart, the organs. The nerves in the low back go to reproductive, down to the legs. So the different nerves go to different organs, different tissues. So if you hurt something in the upper back, well, the spinal cord from the top goes all the way down. So you can affect, something in your neck can affect anything. The individual nerves would go to the fingers, or the elbow, or in the leg would be, in the low back would be to the legs.
So that's why, like in these car accidents and things, we see a lot of tingling in the hands and the fingers because it come out of the neck and it
Right.
radiates on out.
Affects the sensation with the hands.
So the biggest complaint I see and hear about is low back problems. Why do you think that would be, Doctor?
Number one would be improper lifting. And one thing that's very important is when you're carrying something, when you're lifting something, you want to keep it close to your body. So there's actually what's called the 10-to-1 ratio.
And what is that?
Well, it's when you bend at your waist to pick something up, that means it's to the lumbosacral junction, which is where the bottom vertebra meets the sacrum. It feels like 10 times as much weight. So for example, the average male torso weighs 110 pounds. So if the average male is to lift up a 10-pound weight to that area I just described, it's the equivalent to 1,200 pounds. But if you take the same scenario and you bend your knees and keep your back straight as you lift, then it's not 1,200 pounds, it's 10 pounds.
Wow.
That's such a significant difference.
It is, and you can apply that to the simple things in life. You know, when you're taking groceries out of the car, you know, obviously you notice that the things that are in the back of the trunk are a lot heavier than the ones in the front of the trunk. Right? It's simple physics.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, because in other words, you're leaning over, and when you're leaning way over, that's increasing by 10 the amount of weight that you're lifting.
Exactly, because remember, our body works on a pulley system. So, like a pulley, the closer you are, the easier it is. So that's why it's important, whether you're at home or you're at work, to think about how you're picking an object up.
So you're grabbing the bags of groceries, that's fine, you're bringing them closer. Then you go to reach for that laundry soap way off to the corner in the back. Instead of walking around the car to the other side, you reach way over and grab it.
Exactly. So now that 5-pound container is now 10 times.
Oh, boy. That's
And if you're not expecting it, you're not prepared for it, your muscles aren't tight, your muscles aren't warmed up, you can really cause more damage.
Exactly.
Yikes, yikes, yikes.
And if I can add one thing, whenever I'm doing a presentation, I always tell people our goal is for you to lift properly 100% of the time that it's possible. So that way when something happens and you can't lift properly, your muscles aren't fatigued. An example of that would be in a nursing home where you have, say, a CNA that's walking with a patient and you need to grab them real quick. You don't have time to use proper body mechanics. But if you've been lifting properly all day, then your muscles aren't going to be fatigued and there's less of a risk of injury.
Very interesting.
And just that if you are lifting properly, then when you have that thing where you have to jump in and do something, at least you're keeping your body somewhat in a way where you would be trying to lift the proper way instead of just going for it, bending and having a problem.
You know, when you say fatigue, I was a downhill skier, and I know that most injuries occur at the end, the last run, I'm going to go one more time and then we're leaving. That's when most injuries occur because of the fatigue is set in, and you've already used up all your muscles, your tendons are shot, and the only thing left is the ligaments. You stretch it too much, you just tore everything.
Exactly, so that's why it's so important when you have the opportunity to do it properly, the lifting, that you should, and then the fatigue hopefully won't become a factor.
Not just the fatigue, but there's also muscle memory. Your body remembers if the more you do it, so that when you rush in to do it without thinking, your body already knows the proper position and will help you do it more properly, even though you don't have the time to think about it.
You know, every time I got a job somewhere, doing the job, I compete against myself. So I'm always trying to do better, you know, and do it quicker and do it, better. And not to compete with the other people, but with myself. And I always look at the person who's been there a long time. Not the guy who just started 3 months ago, but the guy who's been there 20 years. Because I know that guy, in order to survive 20 years, you've got to be doing something right. has been my experience. And I remember I learned it from a farmer he was very slow and methodical, and every movement he would pick up the box straight up, take his steps. He wouldn't be like I was just lifting it and throwing it on. But somehow he always worked the same, he got the same thing done as I did. He just looked like he wasn't hardly working. You know, I looked like I was working, but my fatigue would set in and he would pass me up. I'd have to rest, things like that. So after learning that about him, he was 72 at the time, outworking me while I was 16 to 18 years old. Just bugged the hell out of me. And but he would always get there at the same time, and he would always, you know, we'd unload a truck, let's say. You know, he'd get his portion done, I'd get my portion done. I looked like I was going 10 times faster, but he did the same amount of work as I did. So because of that, I always look to see who has been doing this for years and years. Because if they're not injured and they're still doing it, obviously they're doing it way better than the way I would be doing it without that knowledge. And so that always kind of helped that a lot. But again, that ratio, I don't think a lot of people understand how significant that really is.
No, they don't, and that's why, getting back to the actual WorkSafe presentation, I actually hit on that 3 different times. Like we just did now, I would describe it that way. And then in the DVD that's coming up, it's in there. And then when I summarize at the end of the presentation, I hit it again. Because just like you've been doing presentations for years, if they can just walk away with 1 or 2 things that they're going to actually do, then it was worth their while being at the presentation.
Makes all the difference in the world, absolutely. So I hear when lifting, where is it is the safe, they call it the neutral zone?
It's called the neutral zone. Basically, it's the area between your waist and your shoulders. And keeping stuff close, the closer to your body, the safer it's going to be, because like Dr. Greene was explaining earlier, with your spine being like a lever when you're lifting, the closer in and up at that level is the area where the object's going to have the least amount of added pressure onto your spine.
And if I could expound on that for a minute.
Sure.
So the question is always, well, I work overhead. How can I do that? Well, it's very simple. The lifting zone doesn't change. It's always between the waist and the shoulder. So if you need to get something from a cabinet, you use a step ladder, so you're still within that lifting zone. Or if you need to get something out of bottom cabinets, let's say you're a kitchen worker in a facility, then you would kneel to pull the item out, so you're still within that lifting zone. Because, you know, in sports you refer to as keeping it in the sweet spot. So it's the same idea. That's where you have the most strength and control and reduce the injury the most.
Toni, tell us a little bit on, you know, what's the safest way to lift?
Well, before you start lifting something, you want to assess the situation. You want to look at the path you're going to take, make sure it's not cluttered, decide how you're going to do it. Then you want to judge the load. Is it a one-man lift? Can you do it yourself, or are you going to need help? Kind of push it with your foot and determine if if you'll be able to handle the weight. Then you want to bend with your knees. You don't want to bend with your waist to get the 10 to 1 ratio. You want to bend with your knees, move it into the sweet spot or the neutral zone, and lift it. And then when you're holding a heavy object, you don't want to twist. Twisting and turning is not very helpful for your spine. So you want to use your feet, take small steps, and so generally think smarter, be smarter. Yeah, look at the situation and take care of yourself.
I think also being aware of your spine, that you have a spine even.
And if the object is too heavy, it also helps to wear a weight belt to help support your spine, especially if you're going to be continuously lifting heavy objects.
I know that we had these back braces, and they were really great at first, and everybody was using them and lifting belts and things like that. But then, if you wear it all the time,
it weakens the muscles.
Your muscles
You
get
lose
weak.
stability.
So that became a problem, and so they took them away. So to me, I love it with they have the what is that harness?
The straps.
The straps.
And then you
Yeah.
just buckle it up when you're going to lift something,
When
and
you're
unbuckle
lifting,
it when you're
right, and that's really
The best
what
of both
makes
worlds.
the best of both worlds. And we're going to get into exercises later, and we're going to, but the whole idea with the back belt was to tighten your stomach, really. to have a nice tight stomach. And we're going to talk about core exercises and all that. Do we want to run the tape? There's a video on, we can run one of the videos right now.
Right, it'll be the one on proper lifting.
Proper lifting. Okay, let's take it away. And we'll be hearing from Joe Ross in a few minutes here.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm going in tonight to work my shift at the nursing home. I'm training a couple of new staff members on transferring patients, and at the same time, I'm going to review some back safety techniques with them. So this is a great opportunity for you to learn the same information, so come on in and join me. We have core muscle groups, and they run both vertically and horizontally, and they just wrap around our waist, but they also at the same time keep our spine aligned. So it's important to take care of those core muscles by exercising and stretching them just to make sure that you're able to do your job. That will help you. Now, if you're carrying a little extra weight, if you're a few pounds overweight, that actually does put a lot more stress on your back. So all you need to do is just cut back on your fats, less sweets, and just drink plenty of water, eat fruits and vegetables, just change that around, and then just basically put yourself as a priority, take care of yourself. The second issue is that we have a neutral zone. A neutral zone is anything between our shoulders and our waist. So when we're lifting items from the floor up to us, we want to hold it within our neutral zone. That's the safest place for you to keep things close to you without overextending yourself. The last issue is just always lifting with your legs, never your back. Never bend at the waist. It puts thousands of pounds of pressure on your back when you simply bend over. I mean, I can already feel what little I'm doing here, it hurts. So you always want to bend your legs, always use your legs, not your back. All right, let's go do some transfer techniques. I'm just going to review how to lift an object. It's really important that you do this, and I know you've done this so many times, but I'm just going to give you a couple of quick techniques. That is, just make sure that you can move the object with your foot, then you know whether you can lift it or not on your own. If you can't, either divide the load into smaller units or just simply ask a coworker to help you. Next is make sure your path is clear in front of you so you know exactly where you're going to drop the load off. And then third, go ahead and just bring it down. Use your leg muscles. Get right underneath of it. Keep your head up. Just lift and bring it to your neutral zone. Hang on to it close and then bring it forward and drop it off. And that's it. This is a Hoyer lift, and it's a mechanical lift. And Joe and Jessica, this is something that I want you to use while you're at the nursing home. You don't want to lift the patients by yourself, you know, bending over, that kind of thing. When you have a patient that's really dependent on you, that can't do a lot of things on their own, then you're going to need this lift just to be able to do that. So the best thing, though, is for us to demonstrate on one another. Joe, you're going to be the resident, so that's why we have you lying down. And Jessica, you and I are going to work together as a team to lift Joe up, who is the resident that needs a lot of assistance in getting out of bed. So here's the harness, and what we'll do first is we need to get the harness underneath the resident. So just lie it on the side right now, and we're just going to roll it up. And the whole idea is go ahead and put it on your end, and then Joe, we're going to lift you up, but we just need you to roll to one side. So bring on over, hold on to this railing, and then just bring on over. And then Jessica, you're going to go ahead and unroll it up by his shoulders. Yep. Make sure that's in the middle. Okay. And then let's roll you to the other side, and then go towards Jessica. All right. And then that's basically flat. Okay. So roll back. All right, and now the shortest end goes at the top, of course. The long end goes at the base. So now that we have that all set, we just bring our equipment over. Make sure it goes underneath the patient. Jessica, that's right above Joe. Okay, and then go ahead and lock the wheels down. Make sure those are secure. And at the same time, there's a lever to basically extend the fork so it goes out, so that it holds that weight distribution. And now we just hook the patient up. to the lift, and then let's go to the base. These go underneath the legs, so we bend at the legs ourselves so that we're not stooping over, and then they cross over. Yep, just take that one, Jessica, and hook it on probably the second or third one.
Oh, so this adjusts depending on the size of the person.
That's right. So this particular harness has different levels to hook the patient on, and yep, so we just want to make sure that those are all the way in. And I've got Joe on the third one. Okay, and everything is secure. Okay, and then before you lift the resident, you just want to make sure that you lift it slowly without lifting him yet, just to make sure that everything is hooked on. And it is. And so we're going to go ahead and lift the patient. And then you just want to lift the resident high enough so that they clear the bed. Now we just need to get Joe from the bed to the wheelchair. So why don't you swing to the other side of me and go ahead and hang on to the back handle of the harness. And we're just going to unlock the wheels. And then we're just going to bring him out. So let's just slide him out slowly. And turn. And then go ahead and bring the wheelchair up right underneath where Joe is sitting. Yep. And then I'll go ahead and lock this side of the wheelchair. You get that side. And then just hang on to him, make sure he's all settled, and we're ready to go. All right, this next move has to do with basically getting the resident out of the bed, sitting up in bed, and then we're going to transfer, I will transfer Joe from the bed to the wheelchair. And this same application could be done whether you're going from the chair to the bed, the other way around. So what we're going to do is, Jessica, you just stand over here and you'll observe. What you do is you bend your legs, bend your legs, keep your back straight, grab the patient behind their neck, and then also ask them if they can kind of swing around, and then help them bring them up. Okay, and so now they're up. So that's at least setting them up. Now have the patient sit towards the end of the bed without going too far. And we've already put the gait belt on, or the transfer belt. So then instruct them. Joe has shoes on, or non-skid socks are great. Make sure your wheelchair is next to the bed, secure. The wheels are secure. And then we're going to simply lift. I'm going to lift him up, ask that the patient put hands on shoulders. We're going to lift him up at 3. So, and then we're going to pivot over. So ready? 1, 2, 3. And then bring it over. And then bend and release. Jessica and Joe, all the back safety techniques that I talked about earlier in the evening is what you can apply every day to your job here at the nursing home. And the main points, of course, are always use your legs when you're lifting, not your back. And keep that in mind, that your core muscles are what keep your spine aligned. So just take care of yourself. Always remember to use your legs. And if there's ever doubt where you can't handle a lift, then make sure that you ask a coworker for assistance. And obviously you have mechanical devices to help you with that lift, so that'll make sure that you stay safe in the work environment.
Hi, welcome back to Ask the Chiropractor. And that was a great video that you've seen. That's what we use for going to nursing homes, and part of the ergonomic WorkSafe program that's put on by the state of Michigan and the Michigan Association of Chiropractors. And we have here a special guest, Dr. Daniel Greene. Hello again.
Hello.
And also Dr. Toni Rodnick and Dr. Neil Rodnick, our co-stars here.
Hello.
And again, we're talking about ergonomic back safety and the WorkSafe program with MAOSHA and the Michigan Association of Chiropractors. And welcome back again, guys. So we're going to go right into ergonomics. And Dr. Greene, would you explain a little bit? Again, Dr. Greene is the chairman of the WorkSafe program for the Michigan Association of Chiropractors. And he practices over in at the at Skidway, Ogama County. Is that correct?
Skidway Lake.
The Skidway Lake, and you've been there for
20
years. All right, tell us about ergonomics and why it's so important.
Well, ergonomics by definition is a relationship between the task that you're going to perform and your positioning. So it's different for everyone, but it's all about doing things as safe as possible. So a great example is a number of years ago, remember when they came out with all these executive chairs
Yes.
that cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, and they were ergonomically correct?
Yes.
Do you know what the biggest flaw with those were?
What's that?
That people still sat on the edge of their chair. So here you had this great piece of equipment to give you proper low back support, proper armrest, you could adjust everything to be perfect, but they weren't being utilized properly. So not only is it about the relationship between the person and the task being performed, it's about doing it correctly. So an example would be, I've done a lot of these trainings and I always do a walk through the facility. So what I always find amusing is when you see the really tall guy working at the short counter and the short guy working at the tall counter. So just by switching those two people, you made a huge change in the ergonomics or the ability for them to perform work. So it's about making tasks safer and easier. Or another example of just ergonomics that will help the individual is I was at another plant and one guy was working on, he would work on grinding something and he would twist to his right to put it in a container. The guy next to him did the same task, but he twisted to his left. So just by having them switch every hour was a huge way of reducing injury to those people, because you no longer had that repetitive injury that Dr. Toni had talked about earlier.
And you don't have the asymmetry either.
Exactly. So it's like she was talking about, where you have the minor thing that's done repetitively and over time, which at the end can give you the same result as getting hit by a car.
Yeah, each one adds up.
Yeah, so it's very important for us as WorkSafe doctors to be aware of ergonomics, and it's not always possible. You know, if you've got $1 million piece of equipment, they're not going to redo that for you. But a simple technology that a lot of plants that I've been uses is what's called scissor carts. And very simply, you've seen those big carts that look like hampers, right?
Yes.
So what they do is they have a mechanism underneath that can raise or lower that cart, depending if you're putting stuff in, taking stuff out. So regardless of your height, you can have it at a properly or ergonomically correct height for you to perform the task.
Got it. You know, we don't realize how much in pounds that we lift. When I was going to chiropractic school in Georgia, I was lifting, I was loading trucks, frozen food trucks. We were taking them off pallets that came off trains and different things, and we would pack it in to these trucks. So in other words, the shipping cost would be less by whatever, I don't know. All I know is I would go in there, work my butt off, and I remember I quit because I thought it was like I didn't think I was doing a real good job. And the guy said, no, you're one of the best workers we actually have down here. And I said, really? I didn't understand. But I was doing 32 tons in about 3.5 hours, and I was exhausted. I couldn't do 8 hours, but I would do three, hard working 3.5 hours, 4 hours maybe, and I'd be exhausted. And I was being paid 69 cents per 1,000 pounds. So I'd walk home. I'd go home with $40 in my pocket, which was, for a few hours work, not bad for, at that time, I was in class most of the time during the week. So, yeah, but it was how many pounds I was lifting. You're talking, 32 tons. That's 64,000 pounds at 69 cents. So I'd make $40, 40. Okay.
And I'll do that a lot with patients who are working repetitive tasks, where I'll say, how much are you lifting? They say, well, each part weighs a pound. So how many parts are you doing an hour? So you take the 1 pound times, if it's 60 parts an hour, times an 8-hour day, and before you know it, that 1 pound adds up to an awful lot of weight.
Yeah.
And then you multiply that.
4,800 pounds.
Exactly. And then you multiply that by week,
Wow.
by month, by year.
Right.
So the numbers become staggering.
Wow. Man. So it's pretty important to have good posture at that point, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. What does that mean? What is posture?
So
Tell us about it.
Posture is basically the way your body should be held throughout the day in order to get its best ergonomical and just to have all the muscles holding together and holding everything stable. Some ways to do it. Well, people right now at home, if you go ahead, sit up nice and straight. Anybody that just moved when I said that one, you did not have good posture. So basically what you do, best way, and this is something you can do right away in the morning, get up, take a look in the mirror. You should stand nice and straight, shoulders, or feet shoulder width apart, get your shoulders back. What you're going to do, you're going to look in the mirror and kind of judge, do I have a high shoulder? Do I have one ear that looks higher than the other? And then rearrange yourself to where everything looks straight. And as well, from a side view, it's a little bit tougher to look at yourself, but keeping your head back, shoulders all the way backward, and that is proper posture and helps to prevent a lot of problems.
I ask people, where are my ears? On the side, because actually, like you said, it's really hard to judge that. And I actually, I'll actually ask that. Where am I at? Because I can't
The
tell.
forward head is one of the more major problems with posture that people have, especially
Especially
these days
after I
with
got electrocuted.
A lot of computer use, a lot of working on the cell phone. A lot of people, their basic posture for their normal is actually with their head way forward and looking down, which causes extra curvature to the mid-back and
I know chiropractically we're constantly looking at that.
Yep.
And we see it all the time. And then on our x-rays you can actually see the head if it's forward and all that. So, and I know we give out information to the offices that, as chiropractors, on how terrible that, and it wears, like you were saying, the 10 ratio with the low back nobody knows about. They also don't know about the head getting carried forward. So, and how it destroys your neck and, anyway.
Well, there's actually a new term that I see on your Facebook postings all the time, text neck.
Text neck. Unbelievable. Yeah, we were on several news channels with that, giving reports and all that because, the kids are looking down and they're not even thinking about it. And these people, like ergonomically, if you're set up, with a desk, like at a certain height and your chair is at a certain height and your computer's at a certain height and your phone's over here twisted to the right, and so by the end of the week you wonder why you're so miserable on Friday as compared to Monday. There's a reason. It's because you're looking down too much, you got this, and then you're twisting over here to answer a phone crooked while you're typing.
Yeah, laptops are not set up to be ergonomically correct. You got your hands and your head at the same level, and that's just not the correct way to do things. Like you said, with a computer, you can have the screen at the height for your eyes and your hands at the right height for your hands.
So one of the biggest things with all this, though, is that not just making sure you're trying to get the right posture, but realizing when you're in a bad posture so you know when to correct it on yourself.
I find it interesting that Benjamin Franklin was an inventor, and if you look at his desk where he was reading books, he had a stand that he would put the book on, and it would be on there, and then he had a clip that would hold the page, and he did it so ergonomically. He knew how important that ergonomics was. All the way back then, as an inventor, he invented something to hold the books he was reading. I don't think anybody pays attention to that, but when I go through like his office and I'm looking at these kind of things, I just go, I'm in awe of the creativity that went on during that time period. And anyway.
So one anecdote when I do these presentations, I always find if I ask who in the room has bad posture, nobody acknowledges it. But when I say, look around the room and tell me if you see anyone who has bad posture, everyone raises their hand and they want to start pointing people out.
That's funny. That is funny. Yeah. Something you could do like with the family too is you can look at each other. Like I say, stand like a soldier. Okay, and then just take a look at each other's ears. You can see one ear tipped one way or the other, or the you know, you can look at the eyes. You know, is it crooked? You can look at the shoulders. Is one higher than the other? And they'll go, oh my God, it's so easy to find it on other people. And what we do when we look in the mirror, we'll readjust ourselves. You know, oh yeah, it's a little higher. I'm perfect. You know, but you're not. You know, here you are walking all day, and you're crooked the whole time. So let's talk about. We talk about posture. Let's talk about exercise. Toni, you want to discuss exercise and.
Well, we say you should invest in yourself. You want to do things that will help improve your health. Because if you lose your health, the quality of life definitely goes down. So we stress the 5 pillars of health: diet, rest, exercise, attitude, and maintenance of the spine. You can remember that with the dream. You want to live the dream. So for diet, you want to eat more fruits and vegetables, whole grains. You want to
live foods, live foods, yeah.
Live foods, low-fat dairy products, just small amounts of meat. You want to cut out the pops and the sugary drinks. Drink more water and juices. For exercise, well, it increases the muscle tone. It also causes the muscles to be more flexible and stronger to help you support your spine and fatigues less easily. Attitude. Well, we live in a very stressful world. Stress is good. At one point, if the saber-toothed tiger is chasing after you, you want to be stressed. You want to have your heart rate increase. You want to be able to see a greater distance. You want to run faster. But in our world, in this day and age, we live in constant stress with things that aren't life-threatening. We worry about the finances. We worry about the little things that are not life-threatening. So we want to take time to rest. You want to meditate, relax, do things to de-stress. Take up a hobby. And then maintenance of the spine is what the chiropractor does. We want to make sure that the spine is aligned, and also watching your posture helps maintain your spine, and different exercises for the spine, not just for the muscles that help support other things and strengthen your muscles, but your spinal muscles. So that's what we want to do to take care of ourselves. Just invest in yourself. Spend the time on yourself.
Thank you. So right now we have another video. We're going to go into exercises in a little bit, and we're going to let's play that video now.
Joe Ross, and we're going to be talking today about WorkSafe. WorkSafe is made up of hundreds of doctors, and they've trained thousands of workers like you and me. They're spinal health care experts, and these chiropractors know how to keep you safe and how to keep your back strong. And today we're going to be talking about developing some of your core muscles, which is real critical for spinal health. Some people think that you have to have fancy gym equipment to have a strong core muscles, and that's your stomach muscles and your lower back. But really what you need is just you and some simple exercises that you do 3-4 times a week. Now let's go inside and I'll show you the 3 core muscle exercises that you need to do to have a stronger core. Come on inside. The first exercise that you do is called the bicycle. And basically you get on your back and you mimic riding a bicycle. Keep in mind to keep your lower back on the mat and breathe while you're doing this. And the exercise looks like this. And surprisingly, the researchers tell us this is one of the best things you can do to start building a good solid core. And that's where spinal health comes from. It greatly is increased by having a solid core. The second exercise is called the vertical leg crunch, and this one's a little bit easier to do. You want to get on your back, and as always, keep your back flat to the mat. Keep your legs up in the air and crossed at the ankles. And then make sure that you keep your breathing going like we discussed earlier. Then just bring your chest up. Make sure that your chin doesn't touch your chest. Other than that, you just go up, down, and then up and down. Now, make sure you do this. You know, try it 4 or 5 times the first time, then work up to 10, 20, 30, and you don't have to go way past 50. I mean, if you can get up to 40 of those, you're doing pretty good. I mean, it doesn't take much to start building a good, strong core. Now, the last exercise that you need to do in this set of 3 is for your lower back. The first 2 help develop a good, strong stomach. That's part of the core. The other part of your core is your back area. For this exercise, you lay down, keep your arms back, keep your chin just a couple of inches off the ground, and you just simply move up. Surprisingly, you do this exercise, just that little bit of motion, and it helps you develop a nice, strong lower back. And again, you do 5 reps maybe the first time, and then eventually slowly work up to maybe 25 reps or more. So with those 3, you're well on your way to having a stronger core. So you don't need all those exercise programs that you see on TV or those fancy gym equipment they're trying to sell you. All you need is you. Start with those basic 3. When you're ready to do more and make it more interesting, then you can go back to your booklet that your doctor will be showing you today, the back's training booklet, and get more tips on building a strong core, which will really help you keep you safe on the job and keep you healthier. I'm Joe Ross for the WorkSafe program. I'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Ask the Chiropractor. And I just love hearing about these exercises, and I think taking care of your body is so important, especially doing all the things we want to do with our lives. And I know that, as a business myself, I like to keep ergonomics going in the office. So how would I go about, or how would a business person go about, what do we have to know in order to have something like this brought into our office?
Okay, first,
or
if you're a nursing home, home health company, small manufacturer, we'd love to come out to your facility and do a WorkSafe program. So to get a hold of us, you can go to our website, which is macworksafe.com.
Okay.
Or you can call the program administrator, Kathy Schaefer, at 517-333-3133, extension 3.
That's a lot of 3s.
Yes, it is.
Oh, boy. So we're going to go over, the next thing is the exercises. So we're going to go into that a little more. And I remember when they did this comparison to people working in different businesses and sports. And they showed, the person bending and reaching is compared to like the baseball guy bending over to pick up the baseball, scooping it up. And they showed them back and forth and back and forth. And the only difference between someone in the workplace and someone with athletics in high school was we would warm up before we did school sports. And at the end, we would do what?
Cool down.
Cool down and stretches. And that was the big difference. So, yeah, go ahead. Explain what
Sure.
those are. And
so basically, warming up and stretching it as a cool down is going to prevent a lot of injuries during the work. So that's something a lot of people in their work don't actually do. They don't even think to do it because they're not feeling like, oh, I'm going to go out and do this athletic thing. And going back to what you said, they're actually extremely similar, the work compared to going out for doing sports.
for years, I have a very physical job as a chiropractor. And I do a whole complete warm-up before I go to work every day. I do the rest. I learned this in karate from my karate teacher.
Just to loosen the muscles.
Just to get everything loose and working. And that way I prevent injuries for me, personally. But so are you going to go over some of the exercises?
Yeah, we're going to go into a couple, just some nice stretch exercises for a minute or
Okay,
two
and
here.
this is something normally you guys would be doing during a WorkSafe program.
Right.
And these,
Right,
this
we'll
is
usually
great.
get the crowd
All
up
right,
and
let's
we'll all
go
go
to
through
it
'em.
then. So we're going to break and we'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to Ask the Chiropractor. So right now we're going to go into some stretches, things to just help loosen up before and after work. Our first one we're going to do is the rotation stretch. So what we're going to do is stand with feet about shoulder width apart. We're going to bring our arms up, and we're just going to rotate side to side. And something important is that when you get to the end point on them is to not bounce, not overdo it. We don't want to pull or hurt anything. Our next exercise is going to be the cross stretch, and it's similar to that last one. We're going to bring our arms up like this, and we're just going to go elbow to knee. And for this one, if you can't reach your elbow to the opposite knee, just go close to it. Once again, not trying to overdo it, just trying to stretch the muscles.
The neck roll is the next exercise that Dr. Neal's going to demonstrate for us.
And what we're going to do for this one, we're basically just rolling our neck. Something important is to not fully extend your head backwards. So we're just going to go all the way forward, and when you reach this point, just go across, and we're going to do circles like that. And it's important to make sure to go in both directions.
Then we're going to look at a shoulder stretch.
So for the shoulder stretch, we're going to stand with our hands apart, and we're going to bring our shoulder blades, push them together, and we're going to take a deep breath in when we go up and breathe out when you go down.
When you do that, are you focusing on your shoulder blades?
You are focusing on making your shoulder blades pinch together. It's a stretch to keep your shoulders back.
The next exercise is a shoulder roll.
For the shoulder roll, we're just going to basically be rolling our shoulders. You want to start with forward, go a couple times there till that's feeling loose, and then we're going to go and do a backwards one.
Then we're going to do some stomach tightening.
So the stomach tightening, you can't actually see this one on the film. Basically all it is standing with good posture, and you're just going to be tightening your stomach muscles and relaxing them. So we're going to kind of skip over that one for right now.
What is the hug?
The hug is basically we're going to just give ourselves a hug, and you're going to be pulling your shoulders actually forward and down, and you should feel it stretching the muscles in the back of your shoulders here.
And the last thing we're going to demonstrate now is a side stretch.
And the side stretch, we're basically standing with your feet apart, and we're going to just be leaning over to one side, and then as well to the other. Important again is not bouncing at the end of the stretch on these ones. You want to just stretch it till you feel a good little burn, and then go back. No bouncing, no overstretching. And that is it for our exercises. And we'll be right back.
Hi, welcome back to Ask the Chiropractor. And thank you, Dr. Toni Rodnick, Dr. Neal Rodnick, for demonstrating that. So, Dr. Greene, I have to say this has been quite an experience here, doing the WorkSafe program on our show here. We really appreciate having you here.
Well, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share the WorkSafe program with all of your viewers. So I know there's quite a few of them out there. So, like we said before the break, anyone who's interested in the program, just contact the WorkSafe program. We'd be happy to go out there and educate your employees and reduce injuries in the workplace.
I think it's just a great program. And I know the numbers, by doing this program, it reduced injuries by a significant number. And they really don't like talking about it that much because it's so significant. And I know the numbers came out like it was really a huge difference. Again, originally we were talking about just even being aware that you have a spine changes how many injuries you're going to have. Because it's when you don't think about your spine and it's the last thing you think about, that's where those injuries happen, is when you're not just paying attention. And that's such a big thing in itself.
It is. If just, of all the things we talked about, I told you I'd say it again at the end, is the 10-to-1 ratio.
Yes, yes.
Just pay attention to that, and the reduction in injuries would be huge.
Incredible. It's just totally incredible. And what a great program. And I know we have hundreds of chiropractors, hundreds of doctors going around and doing these WorkSafe programs all over the state. And it's a significant number. And I know they're all volunteers doing it, and it's just a great thing. And I know there's a lot of training involved, and it's just, hey, for taking care of your spine, I mean, who else but a chiropractor, right?
Exactly, but the more important number is that those hundreds of doctors have trained thousands of workers in the
Yes.
state of Michigan on injury prevention.
So, Dr. Neil Rodnick, do you have anything you want to say to our viewers before we
Pretty
take
much
off
covered
here?
It's been a good show. Went over a lot of stuff. Once again, really important posture and just knowing that if something's going to be going on with your spine.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Dr. Toni, you have something you want to?
Well, like I was discussing before, just take care of your health, invest in yourself, and do the things that'll help you become a healthier person so that you can be a better person and live a better life.
The whole dream concept.
The dream
Diet,
concept.
rest, exercise, attitude, and maintenance of the spine.
Exactly.
I think that says it all. Thank you for sharing, too. And isn't she cute? Oh, my God.
Only a husband can say that on TV.
That's right, on TV. Okay, so again, thank you, Dr. Greene. It was a great show. And take care of your spine so everything's fine. And we'll see you again next month at Ask the Chiropractor. And you have a great day. God gave you the gift of life, and what you do with that life is your gift back to God. So take care of your spine. We'll see you next month. Have a great day.